Now we will do Unit 2 of Class 11th Biology NCRT in one shot. So let's start with Chapter 5, that is Morphology of Flowering Plants. So the wide range in the structure of higher plants will never fail to fascinate us, even though the angiosperms show a large variety, like large diversity in external structure or morphology. They are all characterized by the presence of roots, stems, leaves, flowers, and fruits. In chapter 2 and 3, we talked about classification of plants based on the morphological and other characteristics. For any successful attempt at classification and at understanding any higher plant, or for that matter any living organism, we need to know standard technical terms and standard definitions. We also need to know about the possible variation in different plants parts found as adaptations of the plants to their environment. Example, adaptations to various habitats for protection, climbing, storage, etc. If you pull out any weed, you will see that all of them have roots, stems, and leaves. They may be bearing flowers and fruits. The underground part of the flowering plant is the root system, while the portion above the ground forms the shoot system. So the root system, in majority of the dicot plants, the direct elongation of the radicle leads to the formation of the primary root, which grows inside the soil. It bears lateral roots of several orders that are referred to as secondary, tertiary, etc. roots. The primary roots and its branches constitute the taproot system, as seen in mustard plant. In monocotyledonous plant, the primary root is short-lived and is replaced by a large number of roots. These roots originate from the base of the stem and constitute the fibrous root system as seen in the wheat plant. In some plants like grass, monstera, and the banyan tree, roots arise from parts of the plants other than the radicle and are called adventitious root. So the main functions of the root system are absorption of water and minerals from the soil, providing a proper anchorage to the plant parts, storing reserve food materials, and synthesis of plant growth regulators. Now, regions of the root. The root is covered at the apex by a thimble-like structure called the root cap. It protects the tender apex of the root as it makes its way through the soil. A few millimeters above the root cap is the region of meristematic activity. The cells of this region are very small, thin-walled, and with dense protoplasm. They divide repeatedly. The cells proximal to this region undergo rapid elongation and enlargement and are responsible for the growth of the root in length. This region is called the region of elongation. The cells of the elongation zone gradually differentiate and mature. Hence, this zone proximal to the region of elongation is called the region of maturation. From this region, some of the epidermal cells form very fine and delicate thread-like structures called root hairs. These root hairs absorb water and minerals from the soil. The stem. What are the features that distinguish a stem from a root? The stem is the ascending part of the axis, bearing branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits. It develops from the plumule of the embryo of a germinating seed. The stem bears nodes and internodes. The region of the stem where leaves are borne are called nodes, while internodes are the portions between the two nodes. The stem bears buds which may be terminal or axillary. Stem is generally green when young and later often become woody and dark brown. The main function of the stem is spreading out branches bearing leaves, flowers, and fruits. It conducts water, minerals, and photosynthesis. Some stems perform the function of storage of food, support, protection, and of vegetative propagation. The leaf is a lateral, generally flattened structure borne on the stem. It develops at the node and bears a bud in its axil. The axillary bud later develops into a branch. Leaves originate from shoot apical meristem and are arranged in an acropetal order. They are the most important vegetative organs of photosynthesis. A typical typical leaf consists of three main parts: leaf base, petiole, and lamina. The leaf is attached to the stem by the leaf base and may bear two lateral small leaf-like structures called stipules. In monocotyledons, the leaf base expands into a sheath, covering the stem partially or wholly. In some leguminous plants, the leaf base may become swollen, which is called the pulpinus. The petiole help hold the blade to light. Long, thin, flexible petioles allow leaf blades to flutter in wind, thereby cooling the leaf and bringing fresh air to leaf surface. The lamina or the leaf blade is the green, expanded part of the leaf with veins and veinlets. There is usually a middle prominent vein which is known as the midrib. Veins provide rigidity to the leaf blade and act as channels of transport for water, minerals, and food materials. The shape, margin, apex, surface, and extent of incision of lamina varies in different leaves. Now, venation. The arrangements of veins, the arrangement of veins and the veinlets in the lamina of leaf is termed as venation. When the veinlets form a network, the venation is termed as reticulate. When the veins run parallel to each other within a lamina, the venation is termed as a parallel. Leaves of dicotyledonous plants generally possess reticulate venation, while parallel venation is the characteristic of monocots. Types of leaves. A leaf is said to be simple when its lamina is entire or when incised. The incisions do not reach the midrib. When the incisions of the lamina reach up to the midrib, breaking it into a number of leaflets, the leaf is said to be compound. A bud is present in the axil of petiole in both simple and compound leaves, but not in the axil of leaflets of the compound leaves. The compound leaves may be of two types. In a pinnately compound leaf, this is pinnately compound and palmately compound. In pinnately compound leaf, a number of leaflets are present on common axis called the rachis, which represent the midrib of the leaf, as in neem. In palmately compound leaf, the leaflets are attached to a common point that is at the tip of petiole, as in silk cotton. Phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy is the pattern of arrangement of leaves on the stem or branch. This is usually of three types: alternate, opposite, and whorled. Alternate type of phyllotaxy. In this type of in alternate type of phyllotaxy, a single leaf arises at each node in alternate manner, as in China rose, mustard, and sunflower. In opposite type of phyllotaxy, a pair of leaves arise at each node and lie opposite to each other, as in Calotropis and guava. If more than two leaves arise at a node and form a whorl, it is called as whorled phyllotaxy. An example of this is Alstonia. Inflorescence. A, a flower is a modified shoot wherein the shoot apical meristem changes to floral meristem. Internodes do not elongate and the axis gets condensed. The axis produces different kinds of floral appendages laterally at successive nodes instead of leaves. When a shoot tip transforms into a flower, it is always solitary. When a shoot tip transforms into a flower, it is always solitary. The arrangement of flowers on the floral axis is termed as inflorescence, depending on whether the apex gets developed into a flower or continues to grow. Two major types of inflorescence are defined: racemose and zymose. In racemose type of inflorescence, the main axis continues to grow. The flowers are borne laterally in an acropetal succession. In zymose type of inflorescence, the main axis terminates in a flower, hence is limited in growth. The flowers are borne in basipetal order. Now let's talk about flower. The flower is the reproductive unit in the angiosperms. It is meant for sexual reproduction. A typical flower has four different kinds of whorls arranged successively on the swollen end of the stalk or pedicel, called thalamus or receptacle. So these are calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. Calyx and corolla are accessory organs, while androecium and gynoecium are reproductive organs. In some flowers, like lily, the calyx and corolla are not distinct and are termed as perianth. When a flower has both androecium and gynoecium, it is bisexual. A flower having either only stamens or only carpels is monosexual or unisexual. So in symmetry, the flower may be actinomorphic, means radially symmetrical, or zygomorphic. So for actinomorphic, you need to remember MCD. For zygomorphic, you just remember P, bean, gulmohar, cassia, and asymmetric means cana. So when a flower can be divided into two equal radial halves in any radial plane, passing through the center, it is said to be actinomorphic. Example: mustard, datura, and chili. Mustard, chili, datura. When it can be divided into two similar halves only in one particular vertical plane, it is zygomorphic. Example: pea, gulmohar, bean, cassia. Flower is asymmetric, means irregular if it cannot be divided into two similar halves by any vertical plane passing through the center, as in kana. A flower may be trimerous, tetramerous, or pentamerous, where when the floral appendages are in multiples of 3, 4, or 5 respectively. So flowers with bracts are reduced leaves found at the base of the pedicel are called bracteate, and those without bracts are called ebracteate. Now, based on the position of calyx, corolla, and androecium in respect of the ovary on the thalamus, the flowers are described as hypogynous, perigynous, and epigynous. In the hypogynous flower, the gynoecium occupies the highest position, while the other parts are situated below it. The ovary in such flowers is said to be superior. Example: mustard, china rose, brinjal. Mustard, china rose, brinjal. If gynoecium is situated in the center and other parts of the flower are located on the rim of the thalamus, almost at the same level, it is called perigynous. Rose, plum, peach. The ovary here is said to be half inferior. Example: rose, plum, peach. In epigynous flowers, the margin of thalamus grows upward, enclosing the ovary completely and getting fused with it. The other parts of the flower arise above the ovary. Hence, the ovary is said to be inferior, as in flowers of guava and cucumber, and the reflorets of sunflower. So, for epigynous guava, cucumber, reflorets of sunflower. Parts of a flower. Each flower normally has four floral whorls, that is calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. So calyx is the outermost whorl of the flower, and the members are called sepals. Generally, sepals are green, leaf-like, and protect the flower in the bud stage. The calyx may be gamosepalous, means united, or polysepalous, means free. Corolla is composed of petals. Petals are usually brightly colored to attract insects for pollination. Like calyx, corolla may also be gamopetalous, means united, or polypetalous, means free. Now, the shape and color of corolla vary greatly in plants. Corolla may be tubular, bell-shaped, funnel-shaped, and wheel-shaped. Now, estivation, the mode of arrangement of sepals or petals in floral buds with respect to the other members of the same whorl is known as estivation. The main functions types of estivation are valvate, twisted, imbricate, and maxillary. When sepals or petals in a whorl just touch one another at the margin without overlapping, as in calotropis, it is said to be valvate. If one margin of the appendage overlaps that of the next one, and so on, as in china rose, ladyfingers, and cotton, it is called as twisted. If the margins of sepals or petals overlap one another but not in any particular direction, as in cassia and gulmohar, the estivation is called as imbricate. Pea और bean में क्या होता है? There are five petals basically. जो सबसे लार्जेस्ट वाला होता है उसको स्टैंडर्ड बोलते हैं. एंड स्टैंडर्ड overlaps the two lateral petals, that is known as wings, which in turn overlap the two smallest anterior petals, which is known as keel. So this type of estivation is known as maxillary or papillonaceous. Now if I talk about androecium, which we call it stamen or pistil. Okay, stamen or pistil. Carpel is for gynoecium. So androecium is composed of stamens. Each stamen, which represents the male reproductive organ, consists of a stalk or a filament and an anther. Each anther is usually bilobed and each lobe has two chambers. The pollen sacs. The pollen grains are produced in pollen sacs. A sterile stamen is called as staminode. Stamens of flowers may be united with other members such as petals or among themselves. When stamens are attached to the petals, they are epipetalous, or as in brinjal, or epiphyllous when attached to the perianth, as in the flowers of lily. The stamens in a flower may either remain free, means polyandrous, or may be united in very varying degrees. Stamens may be united into one bunch or one bundle, so we call it monoadelphous, as in China rose, or two means diadelphous, as in pea, or into more than two bundles, that we call as polyadelphous, as in citrus. Okay, so there may be variation in the length of filaments within a flower, as in salvia and mustard. Now talking about gynoecium, we call it as carpel. Many carpels make gynoecium. Okay, so gynoecium is the female reproductive part of the flower and is made up of one or more carpels. A carpel consists of three parts, namely stigma, style, and ovary. The ovary is the enlarged basal part on which lies the elongated tube, the style. The style connects the ovary to the stigma. The stigma is usually at the tip of style and is the receptive surface for pollen grains. Each ovary bears one or more ovules attached to a flattened cushion-like placenta. Each ovary bears one or more ovules attached to a flattened cushion-like placenta. When more than one carpel is present, they may be free. Means apocarpus. And the example is lotus and rose. So they are termed syncarpus when carpels are fused. Fused है तो syncarpus, as in mustard and tomato. After fertilization, the ovules develop into seeds and the ovary matures into a fruit. Talking about placentation, the arrangement of ovules within the ovary is known as placentation. Placentation are of different types, namely marginal, axial, parietal, basal, central, and free central. In marginal placentation, the placenta forms a ridge along the ventral suture of the ovary, and the ovules are born on this ridge, forming two rows, as in P. When the placenta is axial and the ovules are attached to it in a multilocular ovary, the placentation is said to be axial, as in China rose, tomato, and lemon. In parietal placentation, the ovules develop on the inner wall of the ovary or on peripheral part. Ovary is one chambered, but it may becomes two chambered due to the formation of the false septum. Example, mustard and argemone. When the ovules are born on central axis and septa are absent, as in dianthus and primrose, the placentation is said to be free central. Now in basal placentation, the placenta develops at the base of ovary and a single ovule is attached to it, as in sunflower and marigold. Talking about the fruit is a characteristic feature of the flowering plant. It is mature or ripened ovary developed after fertilization. If a fruit is formed without fertilization of the ovary, it is called a parthenocarpic fruit. Example is banana. Generally, the fruit consists of a wall or pericarp and seeds. The pericarp may be dry or fleshy. When pericarp is thick and fleshy, it is differentiated into the outer epicarp, the middle mesocarp, and the inner endocarp. In mango and coconut, the fruit is known as a drupe. They develop from monocarpillary superior ovaries and are one-seeded. In mango, the pericarp is well differentiated into an outer thin epicarp, outer thin epicarp, a middle fleshy edible mesocarp, and an inner stony hard endocarp. In coconut, which is also a drupe, the mesocarp is fibrous. The seed. The ovules after fertilization develops into seeds. A seed is made up of a seed coat and an embryo. The embryo is made up of a radical and an embryonal axis as one in wheat, maize, or two cotyledons as in gram and pea. So the structure of a dicotyledonous seed. The outermost covering of a seed is the seed coat. The seed coat has two layers, the outer testa and the inner tegmen. The hilum is a scar on the seed coat through which the developing seeds were attached to the fruit. Above the hilum is a small pore called the micropyle. Within the seed coat is the embryo, consisting of an embryonal axis and two cotyledons. The cotyledons are often fleshy and full of reserve food materials. At the two ends of the embryonal axis are present the radicle and the plumule. In some seeds, such as castor, the endosperm formed as a result of double fertilization is a food storing tissue and called endospermic seed. In plants such as bean, gram, and pea, the endosperm is not present in mature seeds, and such seeds are called non-endospermic, which is basically dicots, and orchids also, but it is monocot. The structure of monocotyledonous seed. Generally, monocotyledonous seeds are endospermic, but some, as in orchids, are non-endospermic. In the seeds of cereals such as maize, seed coat is membranous and generally fused with the fruit wall. The endosperm is bulky and stores food. The outer covering of endosperm separates the embryo by a proteinaceous layer called alveolar layer. The embryo is small and situated in a groove at one end of the endosperm. It consists of one large and shield-shaped cotyledon known as scutellum and a short axis with a plumule and a radicle. The plumule and radicle are enclosed in sheaths which are called coleoptile and coleorhiza respectively. So floral formulas वगैरह मैं नहीं पढ़ा सकती because there is some addition in the syllabus. So I'll make a separate video on it.